Hello again, everyone. We are back again with the next episode for the single reviews. I am happy to say that the episode chosen after so many vote attempts by fans has finally been picked. So without any further delay, let's take a look at James the Second Best. When Edward is chosen to be the poster engine, James is determined to prove that he deserves it more. But his stubborn pride gets the better of him when he cuts onto the main line, causing Edward to bump into him, destroying the poster. I definitely feel like this is the strongest episode to come out of such a bad season. While we've already seen a duo episode of Edward and James back in Season 9, and it wasn't nearly anything spectacular to say the very least, this one took a much different approach. Most stories we see James just constantly belittling Edward because of how much older he is, and when he doesn't heed any warning or advice, he makes a complete jackass of himself. However, in this one, because everyone thinks so highly of Edward, James feels like he's a much better choice for a poster engine, and he tries to do whatever he can to one-up Edward. I definitely feel like James must have some kind of respect for Edward by this point, given the events of, say, going back to Old Iron. I think he's just too proud and vain to admit it. Because he's not doing these things because he thinks Edward isn't as grand as he is. It's because he feels like his masculinity's been threatened, and he just wants to prove that he's better. But, while doing so, James's pride is his ultimate downfall, and inevitably this lands him in trouble, leading up to one of the funniest crashes of the hit era.
Sorry, puffed Edward. I didn't have time to stop. Don't worry, moaned James. It was my fault for pushing in.
This definitely sounds like something we'd see come straight out of James's classic series persona. And man, it does not disappoint. It's episodes like these where I can really understand why James is one of, or some fans' favorite character. As I've stated on occasion, he does have some very low points throughout the course of the show when he's not in character, but when he is, it makes for one hell of a fun time. And this one is no exception. I also wanted to mention how good Michael Brennan's performance in this episode is. His enthusiasm never slows down, and all of his character voices are great, especially his Edward. I think it's worth noting how vastly different he sounded back in the episode Saving Edward. He made him sound like such a nasally wimp.
I'm sorry, Thomas, Edward wheezed miserably. I'm not a really useful engine anymore. So Top of Hat will have to send me for scrap.
I'm not sure if this was because he forgot the voice or it was just terrible voice directing, but you definitely notice the difference here, and it sounds much better.
Sorry, puffed Edward. I didn't have time to stop.
And I also really love his James voice. It should be no secret that James's voice is one of my favorites that Brandon provides.
If I take Gordon's express line instead of the branch line, he thought, I will arrive before Edward and collect my passengers first. That will show everyone I'm good enough to be on a poster.
And as far as the other characters go, everyone is pretty much on point. I've always said that I love character dynamic episodes, whether it be Thomas or Percy with James, and a pairing with him and Edward is always something to look forward to, depending on what kind of story we have. I do wish they gave us more dynamics with these two, because keeping up with James, in my opinion, wasn't anything to brag about, and I don't know if I would really count James Goes Too Far as a duo, since they're both not on screen together for much of the episode. Another pairing with them did happen in a much later season, but that's a topic for another day. To conclude, James the Second Best is one amazingly written episode, despite the fact that it comes from a bad season. James is pretty much in tune with his classic series counterpart, which makes for one exciting story. I gotta say, this is one of my personal favorite duo episodes with these two, right alongside Old Iron and All in Vain. Paul Larson most certainly deserves some amount of credit for this one. This guy gave us something that feels like it was pulled straight out of the classic series. I would have loved to see more well-written stories like this, especially with these two. And that's why I think this episode rightfully deserves a 10 out of 10. I've been Yami Tay, and I hope you all enjoyed this review. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more single reviews and other Thomas-related content. And be sure to take a look at some of my other reviews in the playlist down below in the description. Until then, I will see you all in the next video.